Right, some deep breathing required ahead of Family Matters today because we are talking about the quite hectic challenge of raising teenage boys to be good men. And if, like me, you are in the middle of that phase of life right now, you know that it is a task that requires thick skin and a strong stomach and a good dose of humour to get you through it. My guest in studio today has all of those in bucket loads because not only has she raised two young men of her own, she's worked with thousands more over the course of her career. Megan de Beer is a psychologist who has specialised in parenting and parenting of teenage boys in particular. You may recognise her name from the very popular course she's been running for several years, both here and in Australia, called Strong Mothers, Strong Sons. You may know her as the co-founder of our favourite Facebook parenting group, The Village. And now you can also know her as the author of a new book called How to Raise a Man, The Modern Mother's Guide to Parenting Her Teenage Son. Megan, it's great to have you with us in studio. Welcome.
Thank you, Pippa. Thanks for the fabulous introduction. I hope I can live up.
Well, thanks for putting up with all those teenage boys over the years on our behalf. If I may, I want to start with a quote from another psychologist entirely. Her name is Gretchen Schminzer. She is an American psychologist, and she wrote a blog post about 5 years ago that I thought spoke so well to the topic we're talking about today. You might have seen it. You might have seen it shared on Facebook quite recently because a radio host in the UK read some of this out and broke down in tears as she was doing so, and it kind of went viral. But it reminded me when I saw it last night. The quote is from a letter that Gretchen wrote called The Letter Your Teenager Cannot Write to You. And it said the following: I desperately need you to hold the other end of the rope, to hang on tightly while I thrash on the other end, while I find the handholds and footholds in this new world I feel like I'm in. I used to know who I was, who you were, who we were, but right now I don't. Right now I'm looking for my edges, and I can sometimes only find them when I'm pulling on you. Such a powerful quote. Megan, that sense of what it encapsulates there about the teenage years as times of pushing boundaries and seeing how far can I push this and experiment, and that as much as the teens want to and need to have the chance to push and explore, they also need us holding the other end of the rope.
Yes, it really speaks to both struggles, the struggle of the mother and the struggle of the teenager, because, and this is why I particularly speak to mothers, because mothers hate to see their children struggling. And they hate to see their boys and their girls struggling. And when we go through this transitional, rather tumultuous time of experimentation called puberty, called adolescence, there's a lostness about it. And there's a fragility, there's a vulnerability. Boys in particular are bombarded with kind of these hero images of like, you know, I've got to save the world, I've got to be the big man in the rugby team, I've got to somehow find what I'm good at and show up and show that I can be good at and strong and wise. So they get bombarded with these images of what a good, strong man is, but inside they don't feel it. And so we get this kind of kicking and screaming kind of stuff that's going on at home and the confusion that goes with it. And because they seem so flipping smart, I mean, they are so smart. Their memories are like elephants. They tell us what to do. They order us around. They're growing taller than us. We tend to forget that inside is in struggle, like this poem or this piece of writing is suggesting, and they can't explain it to us. But we think they should be able to explain it. So, hey, Ma, I got testosterone, you know, like pumping through my veins, you know, and it's making me feel weird and I don't know what to say and I'm embarrassed. And I also want to show up and be big and strong and brave, and I don't know how to. So they can't say those words to us. But we expect that they can because they're so big, you know, and so smart. And so boundaried. Isn't this generation so boundaried? They tell us what to do, tell us what they will do and what they won't do very clearly.
Well, I mean, it's a generation that's in a unique position because so much of what was a given in how we thought about what a strong man looked like and what masculinity meant has shifted radically in the last generation. So in a way, it's a much harder job for them to try and work out what it means to be a man, particularly in an age where they're hearing #MeToo, #Men are trash, juggling that with this the stew of toxic masculinity, as Vanessa refers to it in the introduction
and of
to
course
your
we've
book.
just had Harvey Weinstein
yesterday. The messages they're getting are in turmoil themselves about what it actually means to be a good man and how you become that.
Now, I don't think teenage boys are actually kind of thinking that through, but they certainly feeling the spin-off effects of that, which is mixed messages coming from the media, mixed messages coming from parents, from mates, from friends, and also this gender fluidity. You know, I'm actually going to wear, I'm a girl wearing boys' clothes, but I actually like boys. You know, so there's this gender fluidity that's also sometimes quite confusing to boys, because let's face it, we've got a society that's still very split. We have this, on the one hand, these very strong masculine stereotypes. In order to be a man, you must be big, brave, strong, do it alone, be able to look after your family, don't cry, tune other boys, you know, when you're feeling vulnerable yourself. We've got those bully figures. So we've got strong kind of masculine stereotypes still coming through. You know, the gaming, I mean, all these fighting games where you've got to be rippling with muscles. You know, the Men's Health, just look at the cover. So we've got these strong archetypes and stereotypes coming through the media. But then on the other hand, we have moms who are raising their boys to be more sensitive, more gentle, more empathic. You know, go and make your sister a cup of tea. She's had a tough day. We've got hugs, and we see boys walking around the playground with arms around each other, piling on top of each other to watch a movie. And there's a better kind of sense that we can have empathy, compassion, cooperation as a boy. So we've got those two kind of camps in our society. And so a boy might, as I say, it doesn't think it through. So it's not like they sit down and think it through, but they do feel these mixed messages. And then, of course, we have this toxic masculinity, which is, it's no good anymore to be a bully, a gangster. It's no good anymore to belittle women, to you know, tease your sister in a really ragged way. It's just not acceptable anymore. And of course, then we've got the strong women. We've got these strong mothers and strong women who are kind of leading the way and doing anything they want with their lives. I mean, women can be a truck driver and a doctor, or if you want to be a homemaker, a beautiful, valuable homemaker. So we've got roles and position, but men still don't have access to that. Let's face it, they don't. If your son said, "Mom, I want to be a beautician," I'm not sure.
There's probably going to be pushback in most homes.
How are you going to feel? Yeah, and especially in those strong stereotypical homes. So I think it's the mixed messages that are causing the confusion, and then the toxicity is in that mix.
Yeah. And then, of course, coupled with the testosterone surge, as you've spoken about, and everything that's going on in their bodies and their brains and the parts of the brains that aren't being reached because there are waves and waves of testosterone going through their bodies. I mean, the one thing that I felt really comforted reading your book over the weekend, Megan, I'm at the start of this journey. My boy's only 13, so it's not too bad just yet. But I saw many elements of ourself and where we're going in this book. And the one thing that stood out for me was your acknowledgement of the hurt many mothers feel when that pushback process starts. That, you know, reading this book, I was reminded you've got to start letting go. This is all about enabling your son to become a competent, standalone, independent human who makes good choices. And that is part of a process of letting go and letting them make their own mistakes, letting them learn their own ways of problem solving. But it involves a process of separating from the mom. As you said, you cannot mother a teenage boy the same way you mothered the little boy.
I think the complexity of this mother-son relationship is that we think that a boy, when he starts hitting his teenagers, is crying out for a male figure, is crying out for his father, and that the father's then going to lead the way now in the teenage years. And the complexity is not quite that. We absolutely still need that strong mother figure that's a reminder of his heart, his feelings, his communication, sharing his inner life, his inner world, his building his self-beliefs. And it's the mother that is actually the stage where the boy plays out his first strides into masculinity. Because he tests his strength, he tests his assertiveness, he tests his ideas up against the mother. Why? Because with a softer touch, of course. But it's a preparation for him to get out there into the real world. And so he tests us, pushes us, rejects us, criticizes us. And somehow we've got to, yes, set our boundaries and not be a walkover. But we've also, inside ourselves, have to have this little smile. This is a boy trying to test his strengths and discover what it is to be a man through the mother. So it's the masculine has got to encounter the feminine energy first before he can go out there and arm wrestle with the big men. I'm talking in the sort of, metaphorical sense. Metaphorical sense. So there's this sense of the drama being played out with the mother. And if the mother overreacts to this process, I never raised you to be like that, don't speak to me like that, go to your room, you're just such an awful person, you remind me of your father. The normal comments, and these kind of come out of our mouth. And if we yell and push him down, it shames this budding life force, this budding energy about what it is to be a man. And so therefore that's why I say, as women, we've got to find our values, our boundaries, our ethics. We've got to find our own inner strength, our own feminine wisdom. We don't have to be a man to counteract this boy. We've got to find our feminine strength and be quite clear about our intentions as a parent in order to guide this boy. And if we just fall down in a heap with kind of worrying about him, our anxiety goes up, or we feel so hurt that he's pulling away from us. And I mean, we've all heard those things. Mom, no, don't drop me off. No, I want to go with my mates. No, I don't want to, I don't want to go mountain biking with you or walking with you on the mountain. No, that's lame, And so we all get that kind of rejection. And it's basically not him rejecting us. And it's not him falling out of love with us. In fact, it's proof that he loves us so desperately that he's got to set these kind of boundaries in order to discover this budding masculinity within himself. So it would be silly to overreact and shoot our anxiety up as a mum. The most important thing is to
react with calmness. Yes. I mean, I got this so strongly from reading your book that is actually saying to you, you are the safe space where I can risk it 100%. And work it out.
It's in a nutshell.
Which is, like I said, I felt so reassured reading your book, Megan, because I had a huge number of moments going like, A, I'm not alone. Other people are going through this. This is actually a normal part of the process. And B, it's, yes, I feel wounded, but here's a different way of how we respond to this. There's a lot in this book that is about self-awareness and mindfulness for the mom, as much as it is about learning what's going on in your teenage body and brain and what the difference is between the 13 to 14 phase and the 15 to 16, etc. A lot of it comes down to recognizing ourselves and our own triggers and the way we respond emotionally to things.
I was reading Jack Cornfield's book, I think called The Way of Heart. And this page just jumped out at me, and it said, if you want to raise somebody properly, raise yourself. If you want to raise somebody properly, raise yourself. And it sent tingles through my body, and I just realized that that's the kernel, that's the key. We can't expect to raise a fine young man if we're not living by example. And as a woman, we need to completely embrace our femininity and not move into trying to be this bully person in a young boy's life. But within that femininity is a great strength. And that's our wisdom, is to know what's going on here and to love him fiercely, because this is what I found through dealing with thousands of moms. Their boys love them with all their hearts. The mum really is that safe space, and the person the boy feels he can turn to, and that there is unconditional love. I mean, let's face it. We can be so cross the one day our boy walks in and says, "Hello, Mom," and gives us a big smile, and we just completely melt. And there we are, loving him all over again. It's like we can find that fresh day and that fresh moment at all times. But must we be a walkover? No. So I hope I'm making that clear. It's about finding that intention of we want to raise a boy that, as you say, is disciplined, responsible, accountable. We want a boy that is able to set his boundaries, make his decisions, and eventually go forth into the world purposefully. So therefore we've got to be purposeful, and we've got to be effective, and we've got to find those things that we believe in, our values, and what we stand on. And if we're going to fight for our values, then we must. And I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned from speaking to so many moms over and over and over again is that it is absolutely possible to love a son unconditionally and still be firm, and not to fear that he's going to dislike you, because he will dislike you for a while. If you say you're not going to that party and I'm picking you up at 10 o'clock, he's not going to like you. And he's going to say, "You've ruined my life." And he's going to say, "Everyone else is going and I'm the only one, and you're a dragon, or you're a monster," or whatever on earth he's going to say to us. And we've got to withstand that hurt in order to be an effective parent. And that's the toughest thing for moms. How do we stand our children not liking us because we've set a boundary, and a boundary that he doesn't like? And we've got to find that in ourselves. We've got to, Pippa.
There's such an interesting question in on our WhatsApp line from a single dad who's listening to this interview, saying, "Would I get help from this book?" I mean, it is written to the modern mother as a guide to parenting her teenage son, but I do think there is a lot of general parenting advice, and reading it, I was applying as much of what I read to my thoughts about raising my teenage daughter as to my son. There are differences, obviously, but my instinctive response to that question is yes, I think there is value in this book. A lot of what you write about identifying your parenting style, identifying those core values that are your bedrock. This is where the line is drawn, and this is where we will not allow pushing back, etc. Or yes, but this is where it ends. That kind of stuff. I think it would be of value to you as well. Just quickly, there's such an interesting question in here from Anonymous, who says, "I am doing my best to teach my son about gender stereotypes and equality and about consent. I worry that his father role models a very old school type of masculinity, as do all of his grandparents. How do I counteract this without making him think less of his dad?" Such a tough one.
Such a tough one. I think we've got to find it in ourselves to be able to stand on what we believe without criticizing and judging another. And that's a fine balance. So you can speak for yourself as the mother in what you believe is a fine young man, what you think is the right behavior, what you think is responsible, accountable, and boundaried behavior, without finger pointing the dad. Now that's quite a fine balance. And I do think two parents can be very different. And as a teenager develops, he can navigate and understand the differences. Where it becomes difficult is when he plays the one off the other, which says, Dad says I must just punch him on the nose, and you saying, no, I must follow school protocol, and it's kind of saying, I can't speak for your dad. Your dad's entitled to his opinions. I can speak for what I believe and what I think is right and good and true. And then you've got to find it. You go and think about it. And I think the best sentence that we can start using with our teenagers, which we don't, is, here's what I believe. You go and think about it. And let's have a chat later or tomorrow or next week and tell me what your thoughts are around this this particular thing. Dad says this and I say that, and it doesn't mean we don't love each other, and it doesn't mean we don't share this household together, but you need to decide what you think is good and right and true. And we forget that our teenage boys have got these brilliant brains. They're beginning to philosophize, they're beginning to analyze, they're beginning to think things through. Takes time, okay? But they are doing that, and I think if we keep directing them back at themselves, to think it through for themselves, they'll come up with their own conclusions. Because it's very valuable that children see the good in their parents. And we've got to be really careful not to run down our ex-husbands or you know, our brothers who we don't like or something. We've got to be really careful not just kind of destroy possible relationships that have positivity in them. So I think we can only speak for ourselves.
Megan, I wish I had another hour with you. I know you're doing a series of talks at schools in Cape Town in the next couple of days and weeks. Is there a list on your website if our listeners are interested in coming to hear you talk further?
Yes, they are. But at this stage, it's Bishops, Rondebosch and Wynberg that are already kind of up and running and open for bookings.
Okay.
But there will be other book launches at some bookshops. So that will go up on my website.
Okay, and that website is megandebeyer.com, and the Debeyer is Debeyer.
Yes, I didn't get the diamonds. The De Beer.
Only very few special people did. Okay. megandebeyer.com is the website. If you're driving and you didn't catch that, please feel free to drop me an email after the show and I'll gladly connect you with the site. The book is in stores. You're looking for How to Raise a Man, The Modern Mother's Guide to Parenting Her Teenage Son, published by Penguin Random House. We have 3 copies to give away today. If you would like to win one, please send me an SMS right now to 31567 with your name, your ID number, and the words raise a man, and the first 3 SMSs that come through will each win a copy of this incredibly reassuring and incredibly helpful, practically focused book. Megan, thank you for writing it. I'm going to be needing it, I know, and I'm really grateful that I'm going into the journey with eyes wide open. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Pippa.